Alright, so what I want to do next is show you the bake, and we need to set a project. So set the project. I'm going to set that to a desktop baked example. Doesn't matter, you can name any folder, but the scene and this scene should be saved within it. So make sure that saved right in the same folder. Okay, so let's go to rendering, the drop down. Let's go to lighting. Let's go to batch bake mental ray, square box. And for the video, what I want to do is use a single object. Also, there's supposed to be some options below. This is a bug in 2011 that often occurs. You have to close it out and then open it right back up. Should fix it right up. So now you have your options. I want to bake shadows. I want to use bake set override, light in color, call that plane, 1024 by 1024 and the power of 2. This is a number of samples is very important. This is, let's say I have a gradient, which I will have a gradient here. This is the quality of the gradient that occurs. You know, you could think of it that way. The shadow drop off will be really nice with 4. And then I'm going to bake it to one map. So I'm just going to click on the ground. Just going to save this scene real quick and hit convert. With single object highlighted, you should see a progress bar. If you use multiple objects, it could take a very, very long time to do that. There we go. So what you see is a shadow that's baked in. Let's say I take the lights out of the scene. Doesn't matter. It's always there. Okay? So that means if you had a level, you wouldn't have to have any kind of lights in it. So you can see this in Hypershade under textures. Here's my new texture. Okay, now I'm going to name this ball. Click on the ball. Remember, selected objects only, single object. And I'll convert. There we go. So now the ball and the plane should be that way always. Now, what's the issue? Well, sometimes, especially with a spectral shading, you might not get all that good quality. Like here, the UVs have to be really perfect too. Of course, this ball might have some problems because the UVs are just those standard ugly spherical UVs. Yeah. Okay. So triangles, yeah. And it's going to look amazing on this side, but not so amazing on the other side. But the plane will always look amazing. So you have to be very conscious of your mesh design, and you have to be very conscious of your resolution that you choose. So here's my map. Now if you wanted to, you could probably blur that in Photoshop. It'll work out just fine. So you wouldn't get all this tessellation in the back. Or another thing that you could do that looks nice is if instead of a ball, you would probably use something like this. So I mesh smooth this a few times. Delete that out. Put that on the floor. The shadows don't match, but that's alright. This is just for demonstration purposes. Add my ball material to it. Click on it. Hit convert. You see it's rendering in about half the time. This is because it's all quads. Okay, let's look at the back quality. Look at that. It looks pretty good. Has a little bit of problem right here, but all in all, much better than the actual sphere. Again, if you want it perfect, you would probably take it into Photoshop and blur it out just a little bit. So with spectral items, it does have a little bit of a problem. Another thing you want to take in consideration is if it's a spectral item, would you want a spectral highlight baked in? No. You would want a shadow baked in, but spectral highlights change based upon light. If the character ran up with a flashlight here and shined it, it would work out good. But what if he changed over here and a new light source was introduced? You got to think of what game you're going to be using this in, and is there a possibility of the light changing? Also, you notice in the area that I had the bounce light, like here, for example, I had that light in the front. There was a point light aiming down. That point light really did help out the texture quite a bit. But on the back, there was no point light. It was just raw shadow. So there's a lot of little unwritten rules about baking shadows and stuff. We have to kind of look at them all, but these are just the 101s of things. Alright, so I want to show you a few more tricks before we get started. I want to show you some tricks using Mental Ray, and then we're going to look at what happens to UVs. What role does UVs play in this?